It started with a spreadsheet, just an innocent, boring spreadsheet, until I noticed someone had overwritten my numbers. At first, I thought it was a simple mistake. I work in finance, where files live on shared drives and people mess things up all the time. But when I checked the edit history, my stomach twisted. The changes were deliberate. My formulas were deleted. My notes replaced with small, cutting comments like "wrong again" and "check your math, genius." I remember sitting there, staring at the screen, heartbeat echoing in my ears. I was the senior analyst on that account. No one had permission to edit my work except one person, Mark Asterisk, my so-called team partner. He was the golden boy of our office. Charming, confident, always joking with management. Everyone liked him. Everyone except maybe me. I'd seen the cracks, the arrogance under the charm, the passive-aggressive smirk he used when someone else got credit. I walked over to his desk and asked if he'd touched my file. He looked up, smiling like I'd just complimented him. "Oh, yeah," he said casually, "just fixing a few errors." "You're welcome." "Errors," I said, trying to keep my voice level. He shrugged. "You might want to double-check your formulas. Wouldn't want your numbers to embarrass the team." That was the moment something in me shifted. It wasn't just about data anymore, it was about pride. For the next week, things got worse. Mark started copying my reports before I submitted them, tweaking them just enough to make it look like he'd done the heavy lifting. Then he'd forward them to our boss first, for a quick review. Every time he somehow got the credit. When I'd speak up, he'd flash that fake confusion. "Oh, we must have just been working on the same section." "Great minds, huh?" I complained to my manager, Jenna. She smiled politely and told me, "We'll sort it out." But the next day, she CC'd both of us on an email saying, "Team collaboration is key. Let's make sure we're sharing ownership of all deliverables." In other words, shut up and play nice. Mark knew exactly what he was doing. Every time he walked past my desk, he'd drop a quiet line, "Still fixing those errors." Or, "Don't worry, I cleaned up your mess again." It was death by 1,000 paper cuts. The kind of slow humiliation that eats at you from the inside out. I started saving copies of everything, version histories, timestamps, even screenshots of his edits. I didn't know what I was building toward yet, but I knew I'd need proof. Because guys like Mark don't stop until you make them. The final straw came when he presented my asterisk quarterly forecast during a department meeting. My graphs, my projections, my language. He stood at the front of the room, pointer in hand, saying, "I wanted to take a new approach to this year's strategy." Everyone applauded. Jenna said, "Brilliant work, Mark." And all I could do was sit there and smile, while something cold and sharp formed in the back of my throat. After that meeting, I stopped smiling. I stopped talking. I went home that night and poured whiskey into a coffee mug, staring at my laptop like it was a weapon. I wasn't just angry, I was humiliated. My work, my effort, my late nights, all turned into fuel for his ego. I knew if I went to HR, he'd spin it. He had the charisma, the management's trust, and the easy grin that made people believe him over anyone else. So I did what any cornered person does. I started plotting. I created a duplicate of our shared project drive, a ghost version that only I could access. Every time Mark edited one of my files, I copied the untouched original into the ghost folder with timestamps. I also enabled screen recording, capturing every single edit he made under my login credentials. Slowly, a digital trail began to grow, one that showed exactly how he'd been sabotaging me. But I didn't stop there. I wanted him to feel what I'd felt. So one night, I made a subtle change to the report he was preparing for our next board presentation. Nothing obvious, just a few minor calculation tweaks. Enough that the numbers would fall apart under scrutiny. The next morning, I watched from my desk as he confidently walked into the conference room with his printed charts. I didn't go in, I just waited. 15 minutes later, I heard Jenna's voice through the glass wall. "Mark, these numbers don't add up." And then, for the first time, I saw him flinch. From where I sat, I could see everything. The way Mark's confident posture stiffened, the way his smile faltered when Jenna leaned closer to his laptop. The boardroom was a fishbowl of tension, all glass and cold reflections. I couldn't hear every word, but I could read the room, the shifting glances, the tapping pens, the awkward coughs. It was like watching a lion stumble in front of its pack. He tried to recover, of course. I saw him gesturing wildly, laughing like it was all some minor mix-up. But Jenna wasn't laughing. The CFO, a quiet, calculating man named Richard, leaned forward, brows furrowed. He asked something and Mark froze. Then I saw him turn toward me through the glass, eyes narrowing just slightly. He knew. When the meeting ended, Mark stormed out. I pretended to be typing an email as he passed, but he stopped by my desk anyway. "Nice work," he said in a low, dangerous voice. "You think you're clever." I met his eyes and said evenly, "I think you should double-check your math next time." He didn't respond. He just smiled, that fake, stretched smile, and walked off. But I knew the war had officially started. From that day on, everything in the office changed. Mark stopped making jokes. He stopped talking to people. Instead, he started watching. I'd catch him glancing over his monitor at me, eyes cold, calculating. Sometimes I'd find my chair slightly moved when I came in, or my mouse unplugged, or my login session mysteriously ended. Little things. Psychological warfare. Then came the email, one that looked like it was from HR. It said I was being investigated for data manipulation, and that I needed to provide my local files for review. My heart dropped. But then I noticed the address. It wasn't from HR. It was from a *** fake domain ***, one letter off from the real one. Mark had tried to **fish *me. That's when I realized how deep this was going. This wasn't a petty office spat anymore. It was full-blown corporate sabotage. So I documented everything **. I even installed a hidden camera near my desk, a small USB-shaped one pointed toward my monitor. I knew it was risky, but I needed undeniable proof. Over the next week, the footage captured Mark sneaking into the office early, logging into my computer and plugging in a flash drive. When I saw that clip, my hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped my phone. I took the footage straight to Jenna. I was nervous, terrified, actually, but I knew I couldn't hold it in any longer. When I knocked on her door, she looked up with mild annoyance, like I was interrupting something unimportant. I told her I had evidence that Mark had been accessing my workstation without permission. At first, she didn't believe me. "That's a serious accusation," she said. But when I showed her the video, her expression changed. Her lips pressed into a line. She watched it twice, then sat back in her chair and exhaled slowly. "This could be grounds for termination," she said finally, "but we need to handle it carefully." She promised to escalate it to HR. I left her office thinking it was finally over, that maybe justice would actually happen. But 3 days later, Mark was still at his desk, still smiling, still walking around like he owned the place. When I asked Jenna for an update, she said, "It's under review, don't discuss it with anyone." That's when it hit me. They were protecting him. After that conversation, something inside me cracked. I realized I was on my own. The company didn't care about truth, they cared about keeping things quiet. Mark was too well-liked, too connected. He played golf with the VP, laughed with HR during coffee breaks. I was just the quiet analyst who worked late and didn't go to office parties. Nobody wanted to believe I was the victim. That weekend, I went through every file, every chat, every version history. I built a digital timeline of proof of every single sabotage attempt he'd made. I didn't know what I'd do with it yet, but I couldn't just sit and let him win. On Monday morning, when I came in early, I noticed something strange. My office chair was missing. It sounds small, but it was like a slap in the face. I looked around, and there it was at Mark's desk. He'd taken it. My chair. He looked up, leaned back, and said, "Guess yours was more comfortable." I didn't even answer. I just stared at him. Because at that moment, I realized he wanted me to lose control. He wanted me to snap, to become the unstable one. So I smiled. I picked up my coffee and I said, "You'll need it more than I do." But inside I was done playing fair. That night I stayed late. Everyone had gone home, even the cleaning staff. The hum of the AC was the only sound. I sat in the dark, the blue glow of my monitor lighting the empty cubicles. I was running through security logs when I found something, an admin account accessing restricted files under my asterisk username. He wasn't just editing my reports. He was trying to plant evidence that I asterisk was leaking client data. My stomach dropped. If he succeeded, I could lose everything, my job, my career, even my reputation. Then I noticed the access time, 11:42 p.m. 2 nights earlier. There were only two people with keys to the office after hours, me and Mark. My pulse was pounding in my ears as I copied the logs, attached the footage, and backed it all up to an external drive. I also printed a physical copy just in case. As I was about to leave, I heard something behind me. A soft creak. When I turned, I saw movement by the entrance. Mark was standing there, in the dark, working late. His voice echoed in the empty space, casual but sharp. I froze. He stepped closer, the overhead light catching the side of his face. His eyes didn't have that fake warmth anymore. They were cold, calculating. "Funny," he said. "I thought you'd have learned your lesson by now." I forced a shaky laugh. "What lesson? That you're a coward who hides behind management." He smiled, that same slow, venomous smile. "You don't belong here, man. You don't asterisk fit asterisk. People like me. We build the stories. People like you just do the math." My hands tightened around my phone. "You broke into my computer. I have proof." "Then show it," he said, stepping closer. "Go on, show them. See who they believe, me or you." For a second I thought he might actually hit me. But then he stopped inches from my face and whispered, "You're not as smart as you think." Then he turned and walked out, his footsteps echoing down the hallway. I didn't move for a full minute. I just stood there, shaking, realizing that this had gone far beyond office politics. Mark wasn't protecting his career anymore. He was protecting something else asterisk. Something bigger. The next morning, HR called me in. My stomach sank the second I saw the two people waiting inside, Jenna and the legal counsel. They asked me to sit down. Their tone was calm, rehearsed. "We received a report," Jenna said, "that you've been accessing restricted financial data without authorization." My blood ran cold. "That's not true," I said. "Mark's been using my login." She held up a hand. "Please, don't make accusations without proof." That's when I slid the flash drive across the table. "I have proof." They watched the clips in silence, the footage of Mark at my desk, the access logs, the fake HR email. By the time it ended, Jenna looked pale. The lawyer scribbled something in his notebook. "Finally," he said, "we'll need to verify the authenticity of these materials." It wasn't victory, not yet. But for the first time, I saw doubt asterisk in their eyes. The following days felt like walking through a minefield. No one said anything outright, but I could feel the whispers. People went quiet when I entered the break room. Emails stopped including me on important threads. Even Jenna avoided eye contact. HR was investigating, but that could mean anything. Mark, on the other hand, was acting like nothing had happened, laughing in meetings, cracking jokes with the interns, smiling at me every time he passed my desk, a quiet, infuriating smirk that said, "You think you've won, but you haven't." I started sleeping badly. Every night I'd wake up at 3 a.m., replaying the footage in my head. The image of him standing in the dark office haunted me. I began to wonder if I'd underestimated him, if maybe this whole situation was bigger than I thought. Then on Thursday morning I got an email from Jenna. "Please come to conference room C at 10 a.m. My stomach turned. The subject line read, "Final Review." When I walked into the room, HR was there again, same lawyer, same calm expressions. But this time there was someone else sitting at the end of the table. Richard, the CFO, the man who almost never got involved in employee disputes. "Have a seat," he said. His tone was even, but there was a tension in his jaw. Jenna began, reading from a paper. "We've concluded the investigation. We verified the digital evidence, including the footage and the login records. It's been confirmed that Mark accessed your workstation multiple times without authorization. I exhaled, a small, shaky breath of relief. But, she continued, there's also evidence that you made unauthorized changes to financial reports that were later used in an executive meeting. My relief evaporated. Those changes were his asterisk. I told you, Richard raised a hand. We're aware. However, intent is hard to prove. What's clear is that this situation has become toxic for both parties. Then he looked me straight in the eye. Effective immediately, Mark's employment will be terminated. As for you, we're offering a transition package. You'll finish your current projects, then move on within 60 days. It took me a moment to process what he was saying. They were firing him but also quietly pushing me out. A clean sweep. No drama, no accountability. I wanted to scream. That afternoon, I watched as security escorted Mark out of the building. He didn't resist. He didn't argue. He just glanced back once straight at me and smiled. Not the smug grin I'd come to hate, but something else. Something. Knowing, people crowded near the windows, whispering. I could hear snippets. What did he do? I heard it was a data breach. Crazy, right? I tried to focus on work, but my hands were shaking too hard to type. My mind was a blur of anger and exhaustion. After all that, after months of being undermined and humiliated, this was how it ended. Both of us erased like stains on a whiteboard. When I finally packed up my bag to leave, I noticed a small white envelope under my keyboard. No name on it, just a folded piece of paper inside. I opened it. In neat handwriting it said, "You were never my target." I froze. My heart started pounding. The note wasn't signed, but I knew who it was from. It had to be Mark. The question was, what did he mean? I rushed home, dumped my bag on the floor, and opened my laptop. I went through every file, every backup drive, searching for anything I'd missed. And then, deep in one of the archived folders, I found a spreadsheet labeled Budget 2023 Internal Audit. I didn't remember creating it. When I opened it, I felt my stomach twist. Inside were detailed records of unauthorized transactions, transfers between shell accounts, offshore payments, millions of dollars, hidden under legitimate data. And at the bottom of the document, one name was attached in the metadata, Richard L. Murray, CFO. That's when I understood. Mark hadn't been targeting me. He'd been trying to expose something or someone, and I just helped them bury him. For the next few hours, I sat staring at the screen, the glow flickering against the dark room. My mind raced. If those numbers were real, it meant Richard had been siphoning company money maybe for years. And Mark, with his charm and recklessness, had probably stumbled onto it. Maybe he'd tried to leak it quietly. Maybe he used me as cover. The more I thought about it, the more it made sense. The fake HR emails, the sudden mistakes in my reports, the reason HR turned on me so fast. They weren't protecting Mark asterisk. They were protecting Richard asterisk. I copied everything to an encrypted flash drive. Then I sent one message to my personal email, no explanation, just the file attached. In case anything happened. When I lay down that night, I couldn't sleep. Every sound outside made me flinch. I kept imagining headlights stopping near my window, footsteps in the hallway, and somewhere deep down I started to wonder. Had Mark's smile, that last smile before he left, been a warning or a thank you? The next morning I woke up to silence, no emails, no calls, nothing. The office chat group was unusually quiet too. I kept refreshing, half expecting some dramatic company announcement. But the day passed and there was nothing. Around 3 p.m., Jenna called me into her office. Her tone was tight, rehearsed. "You'll be working remotely until the end of your transition period," she said, not meeting my eyes. "Just to give everyone some space." I wanted to ask her about the audit file, about Richard, about what really happened to Mark. But her expression told me everything. She knew. Or at least she knew enough to stay silent. When I got home, I checked the file again, only to find it was gone. Not just from my computer, but from the backup drive too. Deleted. The entire folder had vanished. I searched every trace, every version history, nothing, except for one thing. In the recent files list under the name of the missing spreadsheet was a new file, Final Notice.txt. I opened it. You weren't supposed to see that. Let it go. No sender, no timestamp, just that one line. I didn't go back to work the next day. I couldn't. Every instinct in my body screamed that something was wrong. I tried calling Jenna, but her number went straight to voicemail. Then, late that evening, a news alert popped up on my phone. Local finance executive, Richard L. Murray found dead in apparent car accident. The article was brief, said he'd lost control on the freeway, no foul play suspected. But there was a photo of the wreck, and something about it made my blood run cold. The passenger side door had been completely crushed, like someone else had been inside. The next morning, another email appeared in my inbox. No subject, no signature, just a sentence. I told you you weren't my target. It was sent from an anonymous Proton Mail account, and attached a video file. The video was short, grainy security footage from inside the parking garage at work. Mark was there walking toward Richard's car. He looked calm, almost casual. He opened the trunk, placed something inside, and then looked straight up at the camera. Right before the clip cut off, he mouthed something. It took me a few plays to read his lips. "Check your drive." My pulse spiked. I ran to my desk, plugged in the flash drive I'd used for backups. At first, it looked empty. But when I opened the hidden partition, I found one lone folder labeled *Project Ghost. Inside were hundreds of documents, all time-stamped, all encrypted. Payment logs, offshore accounts, internal memos, evidence of corporate fraud. Not just from Richard, but from half the executive team. And embedded in one file was a short note. "They thought they could erase me. You're my insurance now." That's when I realized I wasn't free of Mark. I'd inherited his war. Over the next few weeks, I became obsessed. I couldn't stop digging through the data. Every new discovery made my stomach twist tighter. Millions funneled through fake vendors, coded transactions disguised as consulting fees. It wasn't a scam, it was a system. And then came the final file, a document titled Audit Response Draft Docs*. It was written in a calm, professional tone, addressed to federal investigators. The signature block at the bottom read, "Mark Hensley, Senior Financial Analyst." He'd been preparing to blow the whistle. He just hadn't lived to see it happen. I sat there staring at the screen, feeling the weight of everything. I had the evidence, the leverage, but also the risk. If I came forward, they'd come for me next. If I stayed silent, I'd be complicit. That night, as I shut down my computer, I noticed something outside my apartment window, a parked car. Lights off, engine running. It had been there for 3 nights in a row. And when I looked closer, I saw a figure inside, someone wearing a company security badge on their belt. I don't sleep much anymore. I moved apartments, changed my number, even wiped my social media. But the paranoia doesn't leave. Every time my phone vibrates, I expect it to be another message from Mark or from someone worse. A few weeks ago, I mailed copies of the files to 3 journalists. Anonymous return address. No name, just a single message. Follow the money. 2 days later, the story broke. Massive corporate embezzlement scandal, CFO and executives implicated. The company's stock plummeted overnight. And buried halfway through the article was one line that made me stop breathing. The investigation was initiated following an anonymous tip containing hundreds of internal records. I don't know if Mark is alive. I don't know if he ever was the villain I thought he was. But sometimes, when I'm walking home late at night, I swear I see him, reflected in a car window, watching, waiting. And I still can't decide whether he's my enemy or the only reason I'm still breathing.